I was just saying before we came on the air, you don't get time to yourself because you're just always busy.
Yes, I'm always busy.
I guess that the best thing about it is it's always best to be busy, right?
Yes. I mean, life's for living, right? What's the point in being idle?
I don't even know where to go with that comment. Of course, we're talking to Miss Rebecca. We've got loads of stuff to talk about. Fight Factory, and probably more Fight Factory. Sound good?
Yep, sounds good.
Here we go. Roll the intro. Now, of course, we're on Tuesday. I said this before. How's the week been?
It's been all right. It feels like it's been a long week already, but it's been okay.
Yeah, I feel like when it gets to Friday, we're all just going to be like,
Yes. I mean, I'm like that when it gets to Wednesday, but we'll drag ourselves through, won't we?
You've got to do, haven't you? I mean, you just got to keep going no matter what, obviously, life throws at you.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it throws more at you than others, but at the minute, it's okay.
Yeah, of course. Like we mentioned, obviously, before we came on the air, you're a nurse, you're a mum, you're a promoter. Wow, I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, that's got to be one of the busiest weeks for you.
Yes. I'm currently on rest days from my day job. I was ill on Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday I ended up in Skegness doing some promotion there. Yesterday, I can't even remember what I did. Ended up building the ring because of the academy on Monday night, and then today went for some family time in Cleethorpes. We went and had some fish and chips. And then I'm here. So there's always something, either nursing, Fight Factory, or family that I'm doing. I don't think I ever really sit still.
I was just about to say you don't get time, obviously, to me time as well. So, wow, I pity Sunday. I bet you're just like,
Yeah. Well, usually there's ring hires on the weekend, so I don't generally get a day off. Although, to be fair, this Sunday, unless I've forgotten, I do have the day off, and then we usually go to my father-in-law's and have lunch there, which is great. In fact, actually, I'm looking after KD's children on Sunday because he's off to WWE. So no, I don't have a day off on Sunday.
we're 3 minutes in and we've already like got insight to how busy your week is.
Yep, don't stop.
Oh dear. So we're talking obviously about Fight Factory and stuff like that. So let's start at the beginning. How did it all begin?
Oh God. So so Hayden's been wrestling, Dutch has been wrestling since like he could walk, I think. And he broke his back many, many years ago and took time out of wrestling. And this was just before we got together. And then when we got together, he started to dabble with the thought of going back into wrestling after we had rehabilitated him, really, because at one point he couldn't even put his own shoes on. And he was like, right, I can either go back into MMA and have one final fight, or I can go back into wrestling and maybe have some longevity in my career. And he went back wrestling with GWA in Grimsby, is that right? And started wrestling from there. And then we were working with a local promotion in Lincoln, and he was doing a few shows for him and stuff. And the man said, oh, I'd like to run a training school. Is this something you could help me with? And Dutch, being Dutch, was like, I'm not like ready for coaching. This isn't something that like I really want to do, but we can find you a venue, and I know somebody who owns a boxing gym. Maybe we can use the space there. So Hayden would turn up on a Sunday. We would run the class, and the guy who had initially said he was going to start this promotion would turn up, take the money at the end and sod off and not have anything to do with it. And I was like, come on, right? You are putting your time and effort into this. You're training these guys and you're not getting anything for it. And also, like, is he insured? Is he doing this? What's going on here? I don't like this. So I gave the fella an ultimatum and said, look, you either need to start paying him or we need to start doing this properly. So we did it properly. And we ended up running an academy. And then in 2014, so we started in 2013, but in 2014, Hayden's mum passed away and she left him some money. And instead of doing what normal people would do, like get a nice holiday to Disneyland and invest in the money in that, we thought that it'd be a great idea to buy an actual wrestling ring so our students could wrestle in a wrestling ring rather than in a boxing ring, and buy a van to transport it with. And the rest, they say, is history. It went from there.
Interesting. How did the name come about? Because it is really obviously a unique one.
So we ran out of Lincoln Fight Factory, which was the kickboxing academy. Sean Burton runs it, and it's been a friend of Hayden's for years. So when we said we were going to move and find our own space, could we keep the name? He said, yeah, absolutely. So that's where Fight Factory Wrestling came from.
And it's really interesting because I've been at shows like NGW and I always see your van obviously there, and I'm always like, what's going on? And then I obviously discovered that obviously you do the ring stuff and all. How did that all come about?
Do you know what? I don't really know. It just kind of happened naturally. I'm looking over there because that's where Hayden is. So we just the ring itself, people obviously when they were coming to work for us, they were like, this is a really comfy wrestling ring, it's really well maintained, etc. And I think I was asked one day, do you hire it out? And I kind of went, well, I suppose I can do, because we were doing village fates is the wrong word. What fates, open days and things like that in parks and stuff like that for the local council, and so we were moving it around anyway. So yeah, we just started hiring it out, and it all went from there really. And now we hire it out most weekends, which is busy.
But also the cage as well. I mean, that was interesting because I think I was at BWI when they were obviously last year, and I saw you put the cage up, and I'm like, I was just so fascinated how quickly you put that together.
Yeah, I've got that down to a fine art now. So everything I do with that is I'm a bit of a health and safety and risk assessment freak, because at the end of the day, if anybody gets hurt because of a falling panel or whatever, then that's on me. And not only does it hurt them, but it risks my NMC pin and everything. So it's practiced, well and truly practiced, and I'm really kind of OCD with how everything's done. When I put the ring up itself, everybody laughs at me because I'm like, right, the pins need to go in left to right, you need this, and I'm really exact on how I do everything. But because I'm really exact on how I do everything, I know every single inch of that ring, every single inch of that cage, and the sounds that it makes. So I'm like, right, that didn't sound right, what's the matter? So I've over the last sort of like 12 years, we have become very close and personal. It's a very good love-hate relationship between me and that piece of steel.
Do you ever get stressed when you're putting it up?
Yes, all the time. Mainly when I'm giving out basic instructions and people can't follow them. But then I have to take a step back and think, right, I've been doing this year in, year out, weekend out, so it comes natural to me. I think one of the worst things I've said to somebody is, do you know how a square works? Because when they're trying to put the ring up for me and they're trying to stick pieces in bits where they really don't go, I'm like, right, okay. And on occasion, I have to take a step back and take a breather and then go, right, okay, let me explain it to you. So yeah, yeah, I do get stressed massively.
How long does it obviously take the cage down?
So the fastest I've taken that down was at Pro Wrestling Eve, and they were doing a live, and I got it down in 12 minutes. So that was Yeah, I felt like I'd done leg day massively. The next day I couldn't walk properly. I mean, I had a good, sensible crew to help me, but yeah, it was 12 minutes. But generally, the way that you see us construct it, which is in the four corners, it generally goes together in about 10 minutes. It's the preparation work in the time beforehand so that we know exactly how we're going to move it, so I can get the public out of the way and things like that. And when people ask to hire it from me, I'm always saying to them, right, can you send me some footage of the building it's going in? Can you send me some pictures? I need to know. These are the exact measurements of the cage. Like if I turn up and it doesn't fit, that's on you, not me. So, but it's really well planned out beforehand.
That's really interesting. The fact that, I mean, there's so much more that goes into it than just putting a cage up. Like I said, there's just so much like risk factor to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, massively. At the end of the day, it's a massive big bit of steel. And if that falls over and clobbers somebody, that could cause a serious injury. So until we get to like the end of hires, the end of show days, and that ring and that cage is packed safely back in that van, I am on edge until it's done. I'm so nervous. And we've been doing it for years, and I know what I'm doing, but I care. And yeah, until it's down, I'm a nervous wreck.
So I want to talk about obviously the talent pool from Fight Factory. I mean, I've had a few people, and I've had Jack Maxwell, I've had Reese Rogan, Jason Morgan. There's incredible talent obviously in Fight Factory. Talk about that.
So obviously Jack Maxwell and Reese Rogan weren't trained by us, but I had seen them on NGW shows, especially Reese Rogan, and then Reese Rogan brought Jack Maxwell in. They kind of said, this, we'd like to showcase him, can you give him a chance? And I was like, yeah, come, like, let me see what he can do. A lot of people come in, external talent come in through Fight Factory via Body Slams to Cancer. And usually they get a rumble spot and I watch what they do. Anybody that sends me footage, I'm really honest with them, say I don't watch it, because inherently I'm not a wrestling fan. So I need to be able to see it live in order to see how you're interacting with my crowd. So Reese and Rogan were brought in by Nathan Cruz, and we just hit it off immediately. They are such class acts and brilliant people to be around in the locker room. They're locker room leaders. I can't praise them enough. And they are so humble, all of them, even like Dion Hadmandan, he is so humble. They're so eager to learn. And if everybody was like that in wrestling, the wrestling scene would be so much better. So we like to train our guys from like the ground up, and we teach them everything from ring building to the moves that you see them perform. And one of the main things we teach them is like, remain humble, shake everybody's hand in the locker room, if it's appropriate. Obviously, if they've got the kegs around their ankles, let's not be doing that. Like, come on, there's a time and a place. But just Dutch has a way of coaching people that brings out the best. And one of the things that we really focus on is wrestling psychology, because at the end of the day, you are taking the audience on a journey for a couple of hours. You are taking them away from the shit that is going on in their lives and giving them a story to follow and making them either feel great about themselves or they're on that up and down journey. And that is the important thing about it. So Jason Morgan has been with us for, oh God, how many years?
He joined just before the lockdown.
Yes, he joined just before lockdown. And then that was a really weird time, wasn't it? We shut. We just moved premises, and all of a sudden we were told, right, that's it, you can't open. And that was a crazy, crazy time. So we did a lot of online stuff and tried to keep everybody involved. And then when we reopened, we started in like miniature groups and stuff like that. And he came in because he was a friend of Kieran's. They worked at Aldi together, which you wouldn't put that together, would you? Yeah, he's just gone from strength to strength. He's our current heavyweight champion. And to see how his character has developed over the last few years is really good. It's come on and he's starting to really own it. So, yeah.
Yeah, one thing obviously I like about obviously the talent from obviously Fight Factory as well is You mentioned obviously characters and stuff like that. I mean, obviously Jacko Clubs as well, another one character Flex. There's so many characters in that actual like roster as a whole. It's great to see Joe as a fan.
Yeah, so it's a bit like a circus, isn't it? So there's something for everybody, because if every match is exactly the same, you're going to get bored. So, and I always say to them in the pre-show meetings, make sure you're communicating. I don't want to see 5 dives out into the audience within the first 2 matches. Like, can we just have one? In fact, can we not even bother, because everybody does that? Make sure you're communicating. Make sure that you are telling your own story within that match that then is going to relate to the rest of the show, and then is going to relate to the bigger picture for the rest of the year. Because we have stories to tell, and we build up to, as I say, to Body Slams in October. That's like our WrestleMania. Everything leads up to that. So it's really, really important. And if you're taking all of the limelight when actually the next match needs to tell an important story, but you've done it all, that's not fair on the colleagues that you're working with. So it's we try and teach them not to be selfish, but also to sell themselves at the same time. You've got to engage your audience, or otherwise they're not going to buy a ticket, are they? They're not going to come back.
Exactly. So for people who's obviously not been to a Fight Factory, give them a little insight what to expect at one of your shows.
Oh, crikey. Lots of family-friendly, hard-hitting craziness. It is basically EastEnders in Lycra. Hey? Yeah, we have a lot of comedy, a lot of emotion. We like to take you on that journey. You know, there's so many ups and downs, and we like to take you away for 2 hours, make you forget about everything that's going on in your real life, and send you away happy.
Exactly, and stuff like that. So I talk about obviously the venue. So one of them is obviously X Church in Gainsborough. That was the first time I went there, and it's a pretty nice venue.
Yeah, I love that venue. So I think we started there in either 2016 or 2017. We turned up and said we would like to use the space. And it was a really sort of like it's a community centre. So obviously we were Gainsborough is I think it's got one of the highest poverty rates in Europe. So I think it's the 9th in all of Europe. So there's not a lot going on in Gainsborough. So we said that we wanted to bring something monthly and entertain them as much as possible. And at first it's really difficult when you take wrestling somewhere, because they're a bit apprehensive about what's going on. And it's always been really popular, but the wrestling style that we do there is actually quite different to what we do in Lincoln. Because we thought that they would basically like big guys knocking 10 shades of shit out of each other, when actually they prefer a lot more of the comedy stuff. It's really strange, isn't it? The audience and how different it is. But we only
time.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while to build up, but we only run March to November, because by the time you get to November, it is freezing. It is like people turn up with blankets because it is that cold in the church. So we don't run over the Christmas period. And I remember sort of like after the first 1 or 2 years, when we came back in the March, people were literally messaging us saying, thank God you've come back. Like, we're so glad that you're back, because I've had nowhere to take the kids. There's not been any local entertainment. And some of the kids that have been coming to the shows, we've literally watched them grow up. And it's just amazing to see them and how well they're doing. And we, some of them now do bring their children to the shows, which is a different story. But they're, one of the fans ended up coming wrestling for us, and he was a lad who did have forms of disability. He had hydrocephalus as a child, and he was really imbalanced and couldn't really put one foot in front of the other. He came wrestling for us, and we coached him, and he's done so well. And now he's gone to college and done a sports qualification, and he's involved with the Gainsborough Trinity Women's group football, which is just amazing to see how that effect has had on people. And then we obviously run the Leisure Centre in Lincoln in 1NK, and it's just two completely different spaces. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this comment's more for you than me.
from Laurie, yes. So Laurie, or Janine, is my best friend, and she left me a couple of years ago now. She moved back to Belgium because of family commitments, and we do miss her massively. So personally and professionally, to be fair, because she was an awesome part of the locker room. Fantastic, underrated, underused talent in the UK. She should have been going far further than what she did. But unfortunately, she had a back injury, which was horrific for her. But she is now back in the ring. She's done her first wrestling match, so over in Belgium. So that's really good.
There you go. There you go. So give us a little insight, obviously, to the promoting side of wrestling, because it's very rare I get to speak to a promoter.
It is single-handedly the most stressful part of my life. Out of being a mum with two autistic children, being a nurse dealing with like palliative patients, etc., promoting wrestling is literally the most stressful thing I do. And it's the worry of am I going to sell enough tickets to my events? Am I going to be able to create storylines that people are going to want to come back and see? So I have a storyline in kind of group. So it's myself and KD. We do the storylining for Fight Factory. Dutch doesn't have anything to do with it. He always says that he's a bit useless at stuff like that. However, I always say to him, well, you managed to coach enough people to be able to do the wrestling and to understand the wrestling. So actually you would be fine at storylining. But he's like, no, don't want anything to do with it. I'll just tell you the guys that are ready to be on the shows and then you go from there. So yeah, the promotion, getting things out on social media, trying to get students to advertise is like pulling teeth sometimes. And I say this to them, so they're well aware. So, you need an audience to perform in front of, and the only way that the audience is going to come is if you let them know you're there. And algorithms on Facebook and Instagram and all that lot are an absolute nightmare. And also having enough hours in the day to be able to do it is unreal. And managing to please everybody, that's another difficult thing as well. People who think they deserve to be on shows, people who want to be on shows, external talent that want to come and work for you, but you don't have the space to fit them into storylines, trying to keep your storylines fresh so that your audiences aren't getting bored. So we try and come up with like different unique ways of having people look at your posters, for example. So a lot of our posters are from like movie themes, so like Turned Inside Out, based on Inside Out. The last one was based on the Gladiator theme, and Dutch has come up with our next May show one. And what was it?
We haven't released it yet.
We haven't released it, but I'm going to. So we're going to call it Thundergraps because he's obsessed with Thundercats. So that's the next thing for our poster guy to be able to create is that. So he does come up with the odd idea.
Let's catch up obviously in the comments and stuff like that. So Laurie said you're doing an amazing job of juggling wrestling in real life.
I'm completely crazy. That's why.
Craig B. Gordon says, I'm a massive fan up here in Scotland. I've come to see show soon. Can I ask, where did you get the idea for Steel Cage Showdown event?
So we do a show every year called King of the Cage, and we do that every September, October time at Gainsborough at the X-Church. And when we wanted to bring it to Lincoln, this is the very simple thing. So the venue that we initially took it to, I needed to be able to put the steel cage up and not move it. So I needed to have every single match in the cage. So making every single match different, but in the cage, hence the reason why it was Steel Cage Showdown. Rather than just having one steel cage match, it was every single match inside the cage, and that's where it came from, really. So we just wanted to be able to have the steel cage in Lincoln. So, and we'll continue to do that every February. So, Douglas, what are you doing?
Scott Bell says, always loved my time with Fight Factory Wrestling. Hands down, the best wrestling ring in the UK.
Thank you very much, Scott. Yes, there are a lot of people that say that, to be fair, that when we turn up at hires and stuff and they see our van outside, they breathe a sigh of relief because they know that the ring that they're going to wrestle in is safe and comfortable, if you can call it that. I suppose it's easier on their body. So
I want to talk about pay-per-view names because I was looking through obviously some of yours, and the first one which caught my eye was Jack to the Future. I thought, what a pay-per-view name.
I think that was mainly because we've got that many Jacks on our roster, and it was one of the first movie posters that we came out with. Well, it was one of the main ones, and I think it was one of your ideas was Jack to the Future. I think
we had them pre-COVID because we had Train Spotting. We had.
I don't know if you can hear him.
Mm-hmm.
We did originally, one of our original ones, was based on the Train Spotting movie. We did that one, but yeah, Jack to the Future, that was quite a good one. I like that one. I feel sorry for our poster guy. I kind of give him all these really random ideas, and somehow he manages to unpick all of the information I give him and come up with a poster. And then I'll go, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Actually, I need you to change it. And I think he wants to like punch me.
And the funniest one I saw is, what's that coming over the hill?
I think that was me actually for a Halloween poster. I did that one. I was like, oh, we'll do that. And it's because I have the song in my head. That's where that one came from. It's really random.
I love it. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like as a fan, one of the biggest things is like a pay-per-view name. It's so unique. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's because I don't watch WWE or anything like that. There is the odd occasion where I will come up with a name and then he'll go, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? And it's like, because it's already been used. I'm like, shit. But I'll have obviously seen it on social media at some point and it'll be in my brain and I'll think I've been original and I haven't. So people do correct me. But yeah, it's important because if you can see like an eye-catching poster, whether it is on social media or whether it is on a random bus stop or wall or whatever somewhere, and it gains your attention, it's like reading a book, isn't it? You look at it and the title and the picture that's on the front is what grabs your attention, and you hope it's got a really good plot synopsis. It might turn out to be utter shit, but hopefully it's not. And I think so far, after running since 2013, we're not utter shit, which is good. It's a bonus.
One thing we've not talked about is first aid training and stuff like that. Now, obviously, I've got first aid training at work and stuff like that, but as a fan, it's obviously key for wrestling. Do you know what I mean? Because injuries do happen in wrestling.
Yeah. So one of my major things is that all of the referees I use are first aid trained, including my son, because I do that with him. We always make sure that we have a first aider that is up to a high level of emergency first aid. So obviously I'm a nurse, so that covers me massively anyway. It's my registration on the line at the end of the day. I then have got my emergency first response training. My eldest son has gone and done his first response emergency care at level 3. He now works for Lives. So we have that. When you go to like BWR and you see the medics from like Singletons and stuff, he is basically that, and he works for Singletons as well. At the end of the day, you cannot take your wrestler's safety lightly. Accidents happen and you've got to be responsible for every single person in that room. And your referees that are in that ring, they are your first port of call. And if they can't tell that one of those wrestlers is injured, they don't deserve to be in that ring. You have got... Yes, you're first aid trained as well. Yes, you are. Hayden's in the background going, I am too. So we've, I mean, that's for the coaching as well. So full DBS checks, full first aid training, pediatric as well, because you've got to cover everything. But you need to make sure that they're safe, because at the end of the day, we're telling storylines where injury angles happen. And if all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't know if that's real, we need to make sure that everything's covered. And the way that I work it is if anybody's injured, we stop massively. And if they're injured to a point where we can't move them, the show stops. That's it. Tickets could be moved. Lives are important, and it's having that high level of safety. So when I take the ring out, obviously the promoters that I'm working for are then getting a first aider as well. But I think if you're running a promotion and you don't have first aid, that's a big no-no. You need to have first aid. And anybody who doesn't, they shouldn't be running. They really shouldn't.
And the thing is, you're not the first person to say first aid training is important. And it actually is, you know what I mean? It's like you said there, the referee's the first protocol.
Yeah.
Even wrestlers should be.
But even, Dutch has just said.
Like I knew, as soon as I knew, I tried to get the message over to you and to the referee. And
yeah, so even down to the wrestlers being first aid trained as well. It's not compulsory, but having some knowledge of that and understanding. But one of the things that we do teach at Fight Factory is about injuries and how you manage them to enable either the matches to continue if it's possible, but also how to get that message to your referee, how to get that message to the first aider so that they know exactly what's going on. Because one false move, especially if it's a broken neck, that is a big, big deal. So, yeah, so important. Can't stress it enough.
Well said, well said. One thing we've not spoke about is obviously the streaming thing, which is obviously you've got recently. Talk about that.
Yeah, so we wanted to try and do a different way of our video on demand. We obviously have video on demand anyway, but we wanted to try and do something live. It's had a few teething issues to start off with. And I think that's just down to the platform itself being not very user-friendly, and me being a bit, what's the word?
technophobic.
I'm technophobic massively. Like, in order to come on here, I had to get Dutch to set this up. And there's a lot of things he can't do. Some people will laugh at this because sometimes he can't tie his own shoelaces, but he can set this up. So, barely. So we were hoping to go live on March 29th. It might still happen, but we are in Gainsborough and the internet connection there's not all that great. So it might not happen. But it's still a possibility. It's just different ways, isn't it, of getting our product out there and getting it seen by people far and wide.
Not also in the UK, but obviously like other countries as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's when you look at our analytics, our reach does get over to the US, India, Japan, everywhere. And I think we've got quite a lot of followers on YouTube and whatnot, a lot of subscribers. I think it's around 40,000 individual subscribers across all of our platforms. So we
get about 5,000 views a week.
About 5,000 views a week average on YouTube as well. So it's just trying to get that content out there, even if it's like YouTube shorts and just different things. And we try and do Fight Factory Weekly, but that sometimes is a bone of contention.
When you're juggling everything, I'm surprised you managed to get to do it.
Exactly. And there are times when I'm just too busy to get it done. So yeah, it's hard.
It is and stuff like that. You mentioned obviously March 29th now. That's obviously next show, which is this one, if I remember rightly. Yeah,
so that's March 29th, Suplex and Chill. We obviously went off the Netflix theme. Why not take advantage of the fact that WWE is on Netflix? It is what it is. So it is our tag team tournament. This came about because Hayden Dutch got a legitimate shoulder injury, and he's had to relinquish the tag titles that they'd obviously fought so hard to win. and I kind of on the spot went, right, let's have a tag team tournament. And it literally was that on the spot. And then I went, right, I've got to plan that now. Okay. So it was a case of we have tag teams that are actual tag teams. But it's also bring a friend who you want to suplex and chill with, and let's see. So we've got KD and Jason Morgan versus Jack Maxwell and Eve Bateman, and I'm really, really excited to see that. This will be Eve's debut for Fight Factory, and I've been watching her from PPW, and I just think she's got a lot of talent, and I can't wait to see her perform and actually how our crowd receive her. Can't wait for that. And then we have got Ace Matthews and Microphone going against the Lincoln County Regulators. So the winner from each match will then face each other, and then the winner of that will then go on to face Reese and Rogan on May 3rd at the X Church. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. Harry Pineapple says, how do you book and know whether to give someone an opportunity or not?
So a lot of our people on shows are homegrown talent, and it all depends on, are they safe in the ring, firstly? Because if you're putting them against somebody, you are making sure that they are not going to kill each other. Are they able to engage an audience? Are they able to tell a story? Do they know their character? Because if they don't know their character, they're not going to be able to tell it to the audience itself. How much effort do they put in when it comes to show day? You know, are they wanting to help with the overall setup so that their colleagues and the wrestlers that they train with are able to put on a good show? What's their attitude like in the locker room? You know, are they willing to help others do better? Yeah, things like that, really. And how long have they been training as well? Who's trained them? And the quality of their wrestling. And have they sparked my interest? Because a lot of the time, as I said to you before, I don't watch wrestling. So if I go to hires, 9 times out of 10, I've either got my head buried in a book that's got to do with my day job, or I'm just trying to have some chill out time. So if I'm watching you wrestle and you've got my attention, that's a good thing, because that means I'm like, oh, okay, you're telling me a story here that I'm interested in seeing. And if I'm interested in seeing that, then I'm going to be interested in having that on my show.
Interesting. So hopefully that answers your question. Now, you mentioned storylines. Talk about this.
Oh, Stickman, seriously, when am I going to let KD run things again? Stickman, do you still want your job? That's basically all I'm going to say to that.
I didn't show you. Rest at comments.
Oh, what, from him?
Yes.
Do you agree that Stickman is the best ring announcer that FFW has ever had? No, because Stickman can't string a sentence together. Stumbles over his words, forgets what the titles are called, although I have done that in the past, and doesn't know what match he's calling. So, no, he's not. Because Glenn is a wonderful person. That is why. Glenn Bird is fantastic.
And then the last one, I can find it. There it is.
Never. Sorry.
Literally, I like lost so many questions at once. I'm like, what the hell?
That's Stickman for you.
Dear. A few little more questions, obviously, as we begin to wind down and stuff like that. So, you've obviously been, like I said, promoting stuff like that. What's the goal, obviously, for Fight Factory going for the rest of the year?
So everything moves forward into body slams. So the next main thing I've got to do is to, with everybody in the academy, choose the 2 charities that we're going to support for Body Slams to Cancer this year. And then everything leads up to then, really. We need to figure out what's going to happen with Dutch and his wrestling career. to see where that's going following surgery, and just seeing some of the guys that are coming through the academy, how we can introduce them, because we've got some really, really good talent coming through at the minute. So I want to bring in as many different outside talent as I can for them to work against. And our ex-church shows, we're hoping to do Fight Factory versus. So I'm in talks with a few people. I'm hoping to do Fight Factory versus PPW. I'm hoping to do Fight Factory versus SOS Wrestling, WAW, etc. So that we can just have a larger talent pool. And yeah, just to continue where we are, like where we've been going and improving as much as we can. So
there you go. And tickets are still on sale for the 29th of March, I believe.
yes, they are. So they will be on sale until the night before. So it's usually 7 p.m. the night before. So 7 p.m. on the 28th of March is when they will go off sale. And they're available, and they're cheaper online as well. So if you do want to save some money, it's better to buy them online because they're more expensive on the door, basically.
What we'll do is we'll put a link in the description so people can obviously jump from this video to go obviously straight for that, get the tickets and stuff like that. Before we ever head off, is there anything else you'd like to plug?
So there is our April 5th show, which is called 150. And the reason why it's called 150 is because it is our 150th show. When we started, there was a lot of people who said that we wouldn't amount to anything. And, you know, we started in 2013. It's now 2025. We're at show 150, and that is going to be epic. So all of our stuff that you can find is on our website, which is fightfactorywrestling.com. Facebook, which is /FF Wrestling, and obviously our YouTube as well. But really, it's come along. If you wanted to train to be a wrestler, if you just ever thought you wanted to give it a go, send us a message, come along. They're a really, really friendly group. And yeah, just come and see us. We're all right. I don't bite. Not all the time.
We'll end on this question.
What talent are you more excited for coming through your wrestling academy? So actually, there is a wrestler that we have got called Strap, and he's a lovable idiot. And it's the only way I can describe him. But he has come on leaps and bounds in the last few months. He's changed his physique. He's put so much effort into what he's doing and the development of his character. And I'm really excited to see where he goes. And also Microphone as well. It's when he started training with us, he didn't really know where he wanted to be, what he wanted to do. And then he found his character, and he is a pleasure to watch. And I can't wait to see him with Ace Matthews. I think it's just going to be such a combination.
Yeah, Ace Matthews.
But there's loads that are coming through the academy that don't have like their name sorted or anything like that, and they're going to flourish. And to see them more than likely all of them be on Body Slams to Cancer. That's where we need to get to introduce them into the big wide world. Yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah, so and Dutch has just pointed out. So Ian, who is our referee and who's also our son, he will be making his wrestling debut very shortly. He's been really, really training his arse off. And as a mum, it's really scary because now I've got 3 children that step in that wrestling ring, and every time they do, I'm terrified. But I know that they've been trained well, and I know that this is a passion of theirs and that's what they want to do. So to see all 3 of them living out their dream is amazing. So yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. One final thing from yourself is now everyone I interview gets to do the outro for this show. So you can say anything you want, you can promote anything you want, and I will roll the outro. Take it away.
So I've been Miss Rebecca representing Fight Factory Wrestling. If you want to come and see our shows, please do. All of our information is on our website at fightfactorywrestling.com. Thank you for having me.